Mili Państwo, z wysokości tych wierzchołków 40 wieków patrzy na Was. A ja chciałbym, żebyście Wy spojrzeli na cichego bohatera transformacji energetycznej. Na ten oto przewód. Powiem, proszę Państwa, jak się okazuje, kable, przewody będące absolutnym fundamentem transformacji energetycznej są de facto pomijane w bardzo wielu dyskusjach na ten temat. A tymczasem to właśnie dzięki nim jesteśmy w stanie przechodzić czy to na OZE, czy na energetykę jądrową. Tymczasem, proszę Państwa, według doniesień światowa transformacja energetyczna może stanąć albo zwolnić właśnie ze względu na problemy z dostępnością tego typu przyrządów, tego typu kabli i przewodów. O co dokładnie w tym chodzi? Czy naprawdę grozi nam wstrzymanie tego gigantycznego procesu przez brak możliwości zaspokojenia naszych potrzeb, jeżeli chodzi o przewody i kable? Żeby odpowiedzieć na to pytanie, przyjechaliśmy tutaj, do Egiptu, bowiem ten kraj posiada bardzo istotne moce, jeżeli chodzi o produkcję tego typu instalacji i opowiemy Państwu o tym, czy mamy się czego bać, czy faktycznie nasza transformacja energetyczna może stanąć przez brak kabli przewodów. Zapraszam Państwa na wyjątkowy odcinek podcastu Elektryfikacja. Mili Państwo, kiedy mówimy o transformacji energetycznej, to przychodzą nam na myśl przede wszystkim inwestycje w moce wytwórcze, takie jak energetyka jądrowa, źródła wiatrakowe, fotowoltaiczne czy inne. To oczywiście ma dużo sensu, bo jest to pewien trzon tego procesu, który zachodzi teraz w światowej gospodarce. Zmieniamy źródła oparte na paliwach kopalnych na źródła nisko i zeroemisyjne. To jest bardzo ważny proces. Oczywiście nie bez powodu koncentrujemy się właśnie na tym. Ale żeby system oparty na mocach nisko-zeroemisyjnych mógł funkcjonować, żeby w ogóle mógł zaistnieć, potrzebna jest także rewolucja na innym polu. Na polu systemów przesyłowych i dystrybucyjnych, na polu budowy, architektury całego systemu elektroenergetycznego. Źródła wytwórcze to jest tylko jeden element. Żeby one mogły spełniać swoją rolę, jaką jest dostarczanie energii, potrzeba jest także takiej osnowy, która zapewni bezpieczny przesył oraz dystrybucję. I tutaj na scenę wychodzą bohaterowie dzisiejszego odcinka, kable i przewody. Mili Państwo, bez tych urządzeń, bez tych rozwiązań nie będzie żadnej transformacji energetycznej. Nie będzie bez nich nawet funkcjonowania systemu elektroenergetycznego w takiej formie, w jakiej znamy go obecnie. Tymczasem, śledząc dyskusję na temat transformacji energetycznej, można dojść do wniosku, że o kablach i przewodach mówi się praktycznie wcale, albo bardzo, bardzo mało. Na pewno nie oddajemy ilością czasu poświęconego na dyskusję o tych rozwiązaniach wagi tych elementów dla transformacji energetycznej. I proszę Państwa, znaleźliśmy się właśnie w takim trudnym momencie historii transformacji energetycznej, gdzie okazuje się, że właśnie poprzez niedostatki w zakresie dostępności kabli czy przewodów proces ten może spowolnić, czy nawet w ogóle się zatrzymać. Nie tak dawno Financial Times ostrzegał, że może zabraknąć kabli i przewodów dla poprawnego prowadzenia transformacji energetycznej. Bo musimy sobie uzmysłowić, że tych urządzeń potrzeba naprawdę bardzo, bardzo wiele. Nasza transformacja energetyczna, która w dużej mierze opiera się na źródłach odnawialnych, wymaga de facto postawienia zupełnie nowej architektury, jeżeli chodzi o system dystrybucyjny, ale także jeżeli chodzi o system przesyłowy. Bardzo dobrze widzimy to w Polsce. Realizacja transformacji energetycznej w Polsce będzie wymagała właśnie istotnej przebudowy systemu przesyłowego i dystrybucyjnego. Przede wszystkim przenosimy źródła wytwórcze z południa kraju, tam gdzie obecnie jest przemysł, na północ, na Bałtyk. Tam będą funkcjonować takie moce jak elektrownia jądrowa czy morskie farmy wiatrowe. Z czasem do tego pewnie dojdą też lądowe farmy wiatrowe, gdyż na północy kraju mamy doskonałe warunki do rozwoju tych technologii. Natomiast to oznacza, że środek ciężkości polskiego systemu elektroenergetycznego przesunie się istotnie na północ. No i to wymaga przeformatowania, przemodelowania działania tego gigantycznego urządzenia, jakim jest polska elektroenergetyka. Będziemy musieli postawić na przykład autostradę stałoprądową, która będzie pozwalać na wyprowadzenie mocy z jednostek wytwórczych na północy do południa kraju, gdzie działać będzie energochłonny przemysł. Musimy więc zbudować zupełnie nowe trasy przesyłu energii elektrycznej, takie autostrady właśnie, i dzięki nim będziemy w stanie spiąć te nowe moce z resztą polskiego systemu elektroenergetycznego. Ale to nie wszystko, bowiem ta transformacja będzie zachodzić też na poziomie lokalnym. Rozwój źródeł odnawialnych będzie pociągał za sobą zupełną przebudowę systemów dystrybucyjnych. Tych systemów, które można powiedzieć są najbliższe nam odbiorcom, gdyż one właśnie doprowadzają energię elektryczną do naszych domów, firm czy biur. Natomiast rozwój takich rozwiązań jak fotowoltaika wymusza dostosowanie sieci dystrybucyjnej do nowych standardów pracy. Bowiem, jak wiemy, fotowoltaika jest źródłem pogodozależnym, pracuje wtedy, kiedy świeci słońce i jeżeli ono świeci, to pracują wszystkie instalacje w danym miejscu, co, można powiedzieć, zaburza normalny tryb funkcjonowania systemu dystrybucyjnego. To nie jest coś, z czym nie potrafimy sobie poradzić, bo jesteśmy w stanie na przykład doposażyć nasz system w magazyny energii, które przesuną troszeczkę to okienko konsumpcyjne i pozwolą wypłaszczyć niejako wykres produkcji energii, zachowując możliwości generacyjne i jednocześnie też, powiedzmy, optymalizując pracę całego tego urządzenia. Natomiast znowu to też będzie wymagało inwestycji, to też będzie wymagało budowy nowych połączeń, budowy zupełnie nowych urządzeń, które będą w stanie lepiej komunikować producentów z operatorami i pozwolą na manewrowanie systemem elektroenergetycznym. No i znowu do tego wszystkiego potrzeba będzie kabli i przewodów. Tymczasem, proszę Państwa, świat wchodzi w erę poważnych geopolitycznych przetasowań. Widzimy to zwłaszcza po Stanach Zjednoczonych, gdzie nowa administracja prezydenta Donalda Trumpa zaczęła swoje urzędowanie od nakładania ceł, na przykład na Unię Europejską, na przykład na jej wyroby stalowe. To może odbijać się bardzo negatywnie na kluczowych łańcuchach dostaw, jeżeli chodzi o transformację energetyczną, w tym także na łańcuchach dostaw kabli, przewodów czy miedzi potrzebnej do ich wykonania. Jaka jest na to odpowiedź? Jest ona kompleksowa, tak jak kompleksowym wyzwaniem jest problem, o którym mówimy. I w dzisiejszym odcinku będę starał się Państwu przybliżyć ten właśnie przemilczany element, jeżeli chodzi o transformację energetyczną, czyli właśnie sektor produkcji kabli oraz przewodów. W tym celu pojechaliśmy do Egiptu, żeby porozmawiać z tamtejszym liderem produkcji tych urządzeń, firmą Energia, po to, żeby lepiej zrozumieć tę branżę, żeby naświetlić, czym tak naprawdę są kable i przewody dla transformacji energetycznej. O kablach i przewodach rozmawiałem z panem Alim El-Swedim, inżynierem, który jest wiceprezesem firmy, w jakiej mieliśmy przyjemność oglądać produkcję tych urządzeń. Naświetlił on bardzo kompleksowo znaczenie tego ogniwa transformacji energetycznej. Zapraszam do wysłuchania tego wywiadu. A razem ze mną jest już pan inżynier Ali El-Swedi, wiceprezes firmy Energia. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for taking the time to visit us.
My pleasure. And you're perfect man to talk about the cables, because I understand that your company is in this business for like 8 years, over 8 years.
It's been a very long time that we always make the joke in my house that we don't have blood in our veins, we have cables in our veins.
Because it's a family business, right?
Exactly, and I'm the third generation, so I've been growing up all around cables. They're just something we've become very used to now.
And how did it started?
So it started by my grandfather. He started work back in the 1950s in Egypt in trading electrical supplies. And in the 1960s, he traveled to Saudi Arabia to look for a better opportunity and better life standard. And in Saudi Arabia, he continued trading in electrical supplies. One thing led to the other, and his product range expanded to cables, and it was purely retail and distribution. By the late 1980s is when he was the biggest distributor in Saudi Arabia for the only cable manufacturer in Saudi. There was a small cable factory called El Zarqa that was up for sale in the late 1980s. My grandfather decided to take the step into manufacturing by acquiring this factory. Now back then this factory would only do low voltage cables. After the acquisition, he changed the brand name into Jeddah Cable Company, which is now our legacy company in Saudi Arabia. And one thing led to another, and as you can see, now we're very heavily invested in the cable industry with a significant market share and a significant volume of capacity.
Right now, here we can see some part of your production, and ready products. And what exactly do you produce? Can you elaborate on the whole range of products of your manufacture?
So through the years, we've increased our product range and product capacity. We produce all sorts of power cables from 450 over 750 kV to 500 kV. Now, the factory that we're in now is the factory in Egypt, obviously, called Energia Power Cables. It produces all sorts of low voltage cables, medium voltage cables, high voltage cables, and extra high voltage cables up to 220 kilovolts. That comes with all the different constructions and all the different standards. So we're able to produce cables for the IEC standard, where Egypt is one of them. We're able to produce under the British standard for the UK markets or the Caribbean markets. We're able to produce under the NFC standards for the French markets, the UL standards for the North American markets, and the HD, which is the German standards for the likes of Poland, Germany, Austria, etc. So we make sure that with the same machinery, we're able to utilize all the different materials and the different specifications in order to export all over the world.
And what part of the production process do you have here in Cairo?
So in Cairo is everything for the cable from A to Z, as well as some vertical integration with PVC manufacturing. So we buy our aluminum and copper rods from our cable factory in Saudi Arabia, where we are even more vertically integrated, and I'm sure we're going to get into that a bit further down when we start discussing a bit about supply chain efficiencies. But to answer your questions, we buy aluminum rods, copper rods, and we produce everything to get to the final cable.
Right. And so you mentioned the supply chains, and it's an extremely important issue in these times and in the modern world. So first of all, from where do you get the raw resources, like, for example, copper for your production?
Wiek XIX został uznany za wiek węgla. Wiek XX został uznany za wiek ropy. A wiek XXI, ten wiek będzie uznany za wiek miedzi.
Miedź. O tym surowcu będziemy mówić bardzo dużo. Jest on absolutnie kluczowy dla transformacji energetycznej. Występuje we wszystkich technologiach tak naprawdę potrzebnych do tego procesu. W takim zwykłym wiatraku, w turbinie wiatrowej o mocy około 3 MW, instalowanej bardzo powszechnie na lądzie, mamy prawie 5 ton miedzi. Ten surowiec jest absolutnie fundamentalny także dla rozwoju sieci przesyłowych i dystrybucyjnych. Największym producentem miedzi na świecie jest Chile. Stamtąd pochodzi prawie 1/3 dostaw tego surowca na światowe rynki. W Chile miedź wydobywają także polskie spółki. KGHM ma tam swoją kopalnię Sierra Gorda.
So again, let's restate the fact that we are vertically integrated. So we have our own copper rod plant, our own aluminum rod plant, and our own plastics factory called Energia Plastics. With the copper, we buy our cathode, which is the essential raw material of a copper rod, from all over the world. We buy it from South America, we buy it from South Africa, and we buy it from North America as well. We buy that into our copper rod plant in Saudi Arabia. We smelt it and get to the final copper rod. Same goes with aluminum. However, the aluminum we buy ingots, and we usually buy them from a local producer in Saudi Arabia called Ma'aden. This is very good because this really helps us with supply chain efficiencies since we buy it from the same place that the factory is in. With Energia Plastics, we produce all sorts of plastic raw material for the cable compound requirements. Everything from as basic PVC to unique PVCs, to XLPEs for the low voltage and the medium voltage, to semiconductors for the medium voltage and the high voltage, to low smoke halogen free, to HDPE, MDPE, any plastic that we need to use in our cable manufacturing business, we tend to produce it in-house. In my opinion, this is a very positive thing. I'm sure you remember when COVID first started, there was a lot of supply chain disruptions all over the world. You had ships that were very, very late coming from the east to the west. You couldn't find a lot of containers. It was a big problem. Where other cable producers started facing issues, we actually flourished because most of our raw materials are produced in-house. And most of the raw materials of our raw materials are also produced in the region, either in Saudi Arabia or the Emirates. This gave us the ability to control our quality, to make sure that since we control the raw material, we can really control the end cable product from a quality perspective. We can control our lead times. While other people were trying to find faster ships, all we had to do was take a truck and pass from Saudi Arabia to Egypt. And that really provided us the ability to give very, very strong delivery times to our customers. And that's why I believe a vertically integrated cable manufacturer is extremely important. You have to be able to depend on yourselves. We live in a world that's, I'm not going to say changing by the year, it is changing by the month, geopolitically and in other aspects as well. By being vertically integrated, you are way more flexible and able to deal with any shock that the world has to throw your way.
So you were not afraid of any kind of disruptions coming from, for example, tariffs or any sort of...
So, you know, that's actually a very important question. And right before the US elections, it would keep me up at night. But then after the past, let's say, week of 10 days of the inauguration of the new US president, and really hearing who he is he's planning on providing tariffs towards, I realized that chaos is a ladder. And there's a lot of opportunity for a lot of different countries in the world regarding these tariffs. What do I mean by that exactly? Because tariffs is a very tricky part. Now, whether a lot of it is negotiation tactics or a lot of it is actually going to take place, you will realize the tariffs will be targeted towards, I think, 4 countries/regions. Obviously, the most important are China, Canada, and Mexico. But also you hear a lot about tariffs going on between the EU and the United States. This is a great opportunity for Egypt. Egypt is friends with the whole world. We have free trade agreements with most of the world. For the concern of this interview, we have free trade agreements with the European Union. That is why all of our cables and steel products exported to Europe and countries such as Poland are exempted of any customs or any tariffs. We pay 0 tariffs. Now, who am I competing with? In Europe, I am competing with North American producers, other European producers, and East Asian producers. Once tariffs start, you will realize that a lot of the countries are going to end up putting tariffs on each other. It becomes what I like to call a feeding frenzy. But with Egypt, we actually have the opposite. We have a negative trade surplus with all of the world. We import way more than we export with everyone. So we're not a threat to anyone. And I believe they will look to us to replace a lot of the tariffs good, whether it's in energy manufacturing or in things as simple as farming goods, food and beverage, etc. I believe Egypt stands to take advantage of these trade wars that will go on.
Yeah, John Adams said that every problem is a chance in a disease. Yeah, so exactly this is the
chaos is a ladder, as they said in Game of Thrones. I don't know if you're interested in Game of Thrones.
Right. I proszę Państwa, tak właśnie wygląda fabryka kabli. Dzięki temu tutaj za mną mamy prąd w gniazdkach. Proszę Państwa, ten obiekt jest wielki, jego obejście zajmuje dobre kilkadziesiąt minut. I za każdym razem, kiedy odwiedzam takie miejsca, to uświadamiam sobie, jak wiele rzeczy, jak wiele pracy, jak wiele wysiłku potrzeba, żebyśmy na przykład mieli prąd w gniazdku, czyli coś, co traktujemy jako zupełnie oczywistą rzecz. I z jednej strony jestem zachwycony tym, że my ludzie potrafimy robić takie rzeczy, z drugiej strony jestem przerażony wielkością tej struktury, która utrzymuje naszą cywilizację. Going back to the tariffs and the whole this thing about the geopolitics involved, some of the tariffs are imposed not because of the specific trade relations between the countries/regions, but because of, for example, the as a way to protect the production and engage in a low carbon level, like for example European CBAM, which is actually a tariff imposed on us 100%. Yeah. So how would you like to respond on that? Because it's a serious danger for many importers to the EU.
That's very true. But let me tell you what I believe. Let's talk specifically about CBAM. So you're absolutely right. tariffs is not just a geopolitical thing. Sometimes it's to protect local manufacturing in whatever country is imposing the tariffs. And that I can really understand. Every country should protect its own manufacturing. But not every country is the same. What do I mean by that? You have countries like Switzerland, where manufacturing is not a big part of their GDP. But the service sector, the banking sector, the financial sector is a very big part of their GDP. Let's look at the European Union as a whole. Manufacturing is important. But in the end of the day, how much does manufacturing take part of the GDP? Let's go into even more details. Germany and the car industry. Every year, the German car industry is losing volume. Every year, sales are going down. Now, is that because of importation? Mostly, yeah. But the German car industry sells a lot more exports than they do for the local German market. So that shows you that the problem might not necessarily be, I want to protect my local manufacturing. Because in the end of the day, Europe needs to export to the whole world. But if Europe is competing with China, then tariffs will only protect internally in Europe. It will not protect Europe when it comes to exports. Because you can't put a tariff on another country importing from China, importing from India, importing from anywhere in the world. So I believe you will still have the problem. There has to be a middle ground. I believe CBAM is a very, very good middle ground. CBAM should start taking effect in the beginning of 2026. As a company, we work in metals, obviously, either in energy cables or energy of steel fabrication. So we took the advantage of this 1 year to study internally the effect of I like to call the environmental tariff, which, you know what? Fine. There's nothing wrong with an environmental tariff. It's good for the future of the health of Earth. So I'm all for it. But if once we studied it, we realized that no matter how much the tariff is, we will still be competitive. We have to make some investments to make sure that we can bring our carbon footprint even lower. We've already done that. Here in Energy Cables, 100% of the energy that goes into our cable manufacturing, goes into light the building we're in, etc., is clean energy from renewable sources such as solar and wind. This alone brings down your carbon footprint quite significant when compared to the rest of the world. Because remember, this carbon tax, if I could put it in that terms, is not on a country. It is done per factory, per business unit. So I'm competing with everyone else around the world. By doing renewable energy, by taking other steps with my raw material suppliers for them to reduce their carbon footprint, we can really have a carbon footprint score that we're proud of. So yes, will tariffs bring our prices up? Probably, it's what tariffs are. Will they be enough to not make us competitive? I do not think so, because we have the appetite to take care of this world. So we are willing to invest in renewable energy. We're willing to invest in a stricter supply chain. And in the end of the day, this gives me a better score than the rest of the world. No matter how much Europe has in capacity in terms of cables, the demand for cables now in Europe, given the energization and the investments going into the energy sector, you will need cables from outside to help fill the gap. So I'm very comfortable. I know I went into a bit too much details. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. I have plenty of them.
Ale przewody, kable to nie wszystko. Żeby zbudować dobrą sieć przesyłową, dystrybucyjną, potrzebne są na przykład słupy. I takie właśnie słupy, takie konstrukcje, które wspierają szyki przesyłowe, buduje się także tutaj w zakładach firmy Energia, które zajmują się właśnie produkcją stalową. Z tych stalowych konstrukcji, z tych stalowych kątowników zrobi się słupy wysokiego napięcia, które potem PSE będzie stawiać w ramach rozbudowy polskiego systemu przesyłowego. I jeden taki słup waży nawet 100 ton.
let's stick with the cost efficiency subject, because as you mentioned, you're integrated, and that gives you, for example, the advantage of having the ownership over the supply chain. But is that cost effective when
100%.
competition with, for example, China?
100%. So again, why am I not afraid of competing with China in Europe? Very, very simply, business is done between people, not companies. We are in the business of selling service. I'd like to believe we can provide a better service than Chinese companies because we are integrated with Europe. We're right under you guys. We're just a small Mediterranean sea away, while China's in the whole other side of the world. Now, globalization was a very big, important part of the world, but I'd like to believe after COVID, countries should look for trade partners that are very close to them. COVID really did teach us a lot about the benefits and the side effects of globalization. When it comes to supply chain, exactly, I don't know if I want to have a very big part of my business that has to rely on a country extremely far away on the other side of the world, where number one, if there's an issue, because with the electrification going on in Europe, speed is really important. If there's an issue, I want to be able to fly to that country straight away, have a conversation where someone can come to me straight away, ask for a very fast lead time, and not have to worry about, wait, what might happen in the Red Sea with the geopolitical situation going on there? How could that affect me as a European customer? What could happen with supply chain disruptions in China, etc.? You would rather rely on someone closer by like us. So is China competitive? 100%. But the rest of the world is becoming extremely competitive, and China has its own internal problems now from an economical perspective that it has to worry about. And again, that is an opportunity for us.
Right, so you're more like, you're seeing the future in terms of fragmentarization, not globalization.
I believe from a business perspective, global free trade will always be around. But with the new political aura that is overcoming the world, I wouldn't go as far as saying fragmentation, but I would go as far as saying every country is going to start looking at their own interests first. And when it comes to that, I do believe Egypt can really show that it is a valuable trading partner to the European Union. If there's a lot of tariffs between the USA and Europe, which is expected for whatever geopolitical reason, Egypt could go and fill the gap. So yeah, I think it's somewhere between globalization and fragmentation, but it's not all gloomy. It's not all dark clouds and storms. The world still needs each other, and I believe maturity and sanity will always conquer quick negotiating tactics.
And you mentioned that the world is going to need, the countries of the world are going to need each other, and that's true. And but I'm curious about the global capacity in terms of cable manufacturing, because 2 years ago I read a piece by Financial Times that was saying that we may be run out of the capacity of cable production sites because of the need stemming from the energy transition. Would you agree on that?
1,000,000%, and that's what I told you. The pace of electrification in Europe is way more than what European local cable producers can do. You can see it in the lead times of our machinery. Before, if I wanted to buy, let's say, a CV line machine, where that's what you do to do the triple insulation for medium and high and extra high voltage, you could order this machine from a European supplier in 6 months. It'll be delivered, commissioned, installed, ready for orders. If you put an order now, you're going to see a 3-year lead time. What caused this jump? It's because of the demand. There's heavy demand on these machines. the same can go for any other piece of machinery. And this is what really opened up the doors for us to be able to export to Europe. There is an unbelievable amount of demand. A lot of the local producers have backlog for 2 years, which is not something you hear about normally in the cable industry, where people have backlog that can fill their capacity for 2 years. This opened up our doors with our competitive rates, with our service provided to our customers, and the lead times. We were able to take advantage of the lack of capacity. Will other cable manufacturers increase their capacity? Maybe, but I'll tell you something very funny about the cable industry. The cable industry is historically very cyclical. You have some very low years in terms of demand, but then all of a sudden you can have 2, 3, 4 years of incredible demand that you can't even keep up with. During these 2, 3, 4 years, people, unfortunately, it's normal, it's the way the human brain is wired, think this will last forever. So they go and they invest in increased capacities. And then demand drops again. So they have all these capacities that they have to fill, so they have to reduce their pricing very significantly. It doesn't become a profitable business. And then maybe 5, 6 years later, the demand starts up. Globally, we are at a very high demand cycle right now. Will this last forever? History says it can't. You can't continue electrifying forever because that requires unbelievable investments. And there comes a point where the generated capacity is transmitted to the grid and it reaches the threshold where you don't really need to invest anymore. I think a lot of cable producers are very cautious about increasing a lot of capacity now, where if the demand drops, it would really hurt them financially. But the rest of the world, especially us as Energy here in Egypt, we are honored to provide our products to fill that gap.
Galwanizacja to proces, w którym jeden metal pokrywa się warstwą innego metalu po to, żeby na przykład zabezpieczyć go przed korozją. I taki właśnie proces galwanizacyjny odbywa się teraz za mną, gdzie metalowe, stalowe elementy pokrywa się warstwą cynku. W tej kadzi znajduje się cynk o wartości około 20 milionów złotych. No i proszę, gotowe. Tak wygląda zgalwanizowana konstrukcja stalowa, która teraz trafia do chłodzenia. Chłodzenie potrzebne jest dlatego, że proces galwanizacji odbywa się w temperaturze powyżej 400 stopni Celsjusza. Going back to the European market, because you said that we are the peak global demand for cables because of electrification, and let me stay with Poland, because Poland is on the brink of a huge energy transition right now, and we are playing a lot in terms of transmission and distribution lines, and that would increase our demand in cables many times. Are you ready as a company to go on and fill the gap that will be created on the Polish market?
So first, I'd like to agree with you 100%. Poland is about to start an investment in infrastructure cycle that we are very excited for. And when I've traveled to Poland to meet our customers, to go to different exhibitions, you can see that everyone's prepared for it. Now, we've been hearing about it for over 2 years now. It's about to happen, it's about to happen, it's about to happen. We haven't seen the extra demand yet, but everyone knows it's a matter of time where the new government will start laying out these investments and seeing it come to fruition. Because we see it coming and we see there's a need for it. It's not like they're going to do these investments just to show that there's opportunities in the country. No, they're doing it because they really have to, for the quality of life, for their manufacturing industries, etc., etc., etc. So by the middle of last year, we took a strategic decision as a company in Energy power cables and Energy steel fabrication to increase our capacities. To be frank, this is not just for Poland, it's for the whole European bloc.
Tak więc, jak Państwo widzicie, kable prosto z Egiptu do Polski. Tutaj mamy partię zapakowana, już czeka na wywóz i transfer do naszego kraju. Tutaj jest tabliczka, która to potwierdza z nazwą odbiorcy, z numerem zamówienia i one sobie stąd popłyną z Kairu prosto do naszego kraju.
Everyone's going to go through the same requirement of energy and infrastructure. We just believe Poland will require a little bit more. When we increased our capacity, we did it in the product ranges such as medium voltage and high and extra high voltage that we believe will be really required, and we can really show value to our customers. And by increasing these capacities, we are now ready and super excited for the investments to take place. We're seeing it happen slowly. People wouldn't buy from us unless they first went to the local producers and either prices were a bit too high for them or lead times were very long. Through our service of a competitive rate, not a low price, a competitive price, there's a big difference, and a fast lead time with the service we provide, I believe slowly but surely we can have the honor of serving this market.
And your increased capacity can cover the whole range of the cables that we need. So, for example, distribution cable,
Yes.
High voltage direct current cables, exactly. Also, everything from this.
So everything from overhead transmission line to low, medium, high, and extra high, we are able to provide to the market, and the increased capacity has gone in these product ranges. Hopefully the demand will increase very quickly and we can serve this market to the best of our abilities.
Right. A to, co widzą Państwo za mną, to jest przystanek kairskiej kolejki monorail, więc nawet takie obiekty tutaj się buduje. And just one more question regarding the European market, because I mentioned CBAM because it's one of the obstacles raised up by the importers to the European Union as a possible cost increaser. But on the other hand, we do have some obligations that are put on the companies that are working on the EU market. Like, for example, the obligation to report the carbon footprint of your company and so on and so on. So you said that you are now powering your capacity by renewable power. And are you not afraid of the additional burden of some obligations stemming from the European law regarding the whole climate issue?
Honestly, why would you be upset? If anything, this is another opportunity rather than it is a deterrent of free trade. Yes, it's a little bit of extra work to be prepared. But at the end of the day, if you do a good job in your preparation, in making sure you reduce your carbon footprint, in going the extra mile with your downstream supply chain to make sure they reduce their their footprint, it gives you an edge to import to Europe. If you can have a very good score, you'll probably be a preferred importer by our European customers. So we see it as an opportunity. And in the end of the day, by doing all that, will prices increase? It depends on the carbon footprint of each factory. But you're helping the earth in the end of the day. You're being provided with an opportunity to make yourself unique to the rest of the competition. So why not? I don't really see what the big deal is. As long as prices are not increasing significantly, which I do believe in the end of the day, this won't happen overnight. This will roll out smoothly because you also don't want to create mega inflation in Europe. You're going to be like, oh, okay, we're going to do it to ensure our local producers have the ability to be competitive. Yes, but because of the supply-demand gap, you will still have to import. So the imported part, you don't want to increase inflation. Inflation is just a burden that no one really wants to deal with. So it's a double-edged sword. There's opportunity. There's some people who will have some very bad scores. We look at it as an opportunity 100%.
Yeah. Obojętnie od tego, co będziemy chcieli robić z naszą energetyką, stal i tak będzie potrzebna, bo używamy jej nie tylko przy projektowaniu i budowie systemów przesyłowych, ale też na przykład w reaktorach jądrowych, w fundamentach turbin wiatrowych, czy w stelażach do paneli fotowoltaicznych. We mentioned that your company is running the business for like decades. And what, or I'm sorry, for decades, for a very long time.
Yeah.
And so what has changed through these years in terms of the product that you manufacture?
Okay. I'd like to discuss the product, but also discuss how we've changed as human beings and management. In terms of product, very simply, when we started production, we only did low voltage back in the late 80s when we took over that company. When we increased our capacities, we started going into higher cross-sectional areas of low voltage. And then slowly, we transitioned into medium voltage. We opened a factory here in Egypt, a different one than this, that started working in specialized cables, instrumentation, control, and telecom cables. Slowly, we transitioned into high and extra high voltage. Now we're transitioning into high voltage with fiber optic in the screen specifically for the Central European market. And that is what's good about collaboration with our customers, that they also open our eyes on new technologies that we can invest in to serve their requirements. We're investing heavily in HVDC cables where no one in our part of the world produces it, so that will also give us another edge to serve the European market. In terms of management, which I believe is very important, technology is important, but technology changes. If you're smart, you'll always develop yourself with technology. But making sure through decades you can maneuver and become more mature as management is not easy, and that's where companies fall. Energia that you see now, the people that you will meet in the shop floor, the managers that you will bump into while making your tour through the factory, you will realize they're all very young. We rarely have anyone over the age of 40, 45. 40, 45 is young. Don't let anyone, I don't know how old you are, but that's still young. We did that for a purpose. We were talking about globalization, etc. The world is not only connected, but extremely fast-paced. I don't know if you felt it, but 2024 passed like a bullet. January started, we're in December. It's very fast-paced, so it needs a new generation that is extremely flexible, has the ability to learn and adapt very quickly. And as I told you, I am not in the business of selling cables. I am in the business of selling service. So I need to be very flexible with my customer. If they need something done and they need it done yesterday, I want to get it done the day before yesterday. With the new management in place, they have strong appetite for growth, but they're also very flexible in terms of learning new technologies, adapting new systems and procedures, changing new systems and procedures to become even more efficient. So I think what makes us stand out is how we have changed as people, even more than how we've changed with technology.
Yeah. Na te wielkie bębny nawijane są potem produkowane tutaj kable oraz przewody, więc nawet te właśnie bębny kablowe są produkowane na miejscu. Regarding technology, do you engage with technologies such as artificial intelligence in your...
So I'll tell you a very cool story regarding the implementation of technology away from cable manufacturing and new machinery, etc. It's going to be a little bit of a long story, but it will include AI in the end. When we started entering the local project market in Egypt around 2018, because mainly we were exporting and focusing on the utility companies in Egypt. When we entered the local market, so the retail and distribution market, we realized our building wire brand is unknown in terms of brand. We realize if we go through the traditional channels of distribution, we will end up not having the upper hand with the market. The distributors will tell us your brand is not known, so you're going to basically give it to us at heavily discounted prices and on consignment. Whenever we sell it, we'll pay you. And I didn't really like that. I'm not in control of my distribution channels, so I will never grow. And the competition will always be stronger than me. So we thought outside of the box. How can we grow in the distribution segment of our business without losing control? We thought, who is the stakeholder? Who is the end customer? So the stakeholders in the distribution are basically the retailers and in Egypt, the electricians. So for house wiring, for building wirings, usually the electrician is the one to purchase the small cable cross-section areas and the wires. So we knew we needed to target him. We needed him to go into a retailer store and choose our brand by name. How would we do that? We thought of this very cool technology through an application that brings together the retailer and the electrician and myself. It is a spin-off of a loyalty program, but it adds way more value than just a very basic loyalty program. So our product now has a QR code in the inside of the product. Once the electrician is done using it, he is able to scan this QR code on our mobile phone application and get loyalty points that translate into cashback. Believe it or not, here in Egypt, the electrician makes more money than the retailer would profit off my product. The retailer gets a free inventory management system through the application as well. The electrician gets a map on the application that shows him where the closest store with the closest product is. They get a free delivery service if they want it delivered to them, etc. That worked so well that today we have 4,000 electricians in Egypt that utilize our products on a daily basis and scan our products on a daily basis. This technology really helped us gain a significant portion of market share and brand loyalty that we expanded this application to different markets. We now have this application in Saudi Arabia as well, where we distribute our own wire and cable products. We have our own load center branded by Energy, our own lighting, LED lighting products branded by Energy. We took this product to Kenya. We opened our own office in Kenya. We have our own warehouse with our building wires and cables, and we distribute it through the same thing. So we utilize technology to gain market share in a very traditional commercial market. We were able to then, after 3-4 years of working with this technology, integrate AI on it. So now, just like ChatGPT, where you can go and ask it for anything, we have an integrated AI with this technology that we can ask it anything. We can ask it to tell us what is the best way to handle our production in terms of sizes and colors, given the historical data of sales. We can then put the sales based on regions, based on cities, so we can make sure that we're always stocking according to what will be the fast movers. This in turn helps us become very efficient in terms of cash flow management, in terms of stock and inventory management. It will easily tell us what each electrician or what a segment of electrician purchases. So the data analysis converts into commercial decisions, into operational decisions. That's something we're very happy about. Now, again, this is still in the very early stages. I believe the whole world has only scratched the surface of AI. But I'm very excited to see what new technologies come out with AI and how we can integrate it in our normal day-to-day business.
Yeah, thank you. So that's quite a nice social network that you are building.
100%. In the end of the day, it is an ecosystem that brings together me, the retailer, the electrician. The great thing about this is scalability. It works anywhere in the world where the electrician is not unionized. And in our part of the world, unfortunately, electricians are not really looked after by their by their suppliers. They take them for granted. That's why we were able to roll out to Saudi Arabia, to roll out in Kenya. We have a plan that we want to roll out this technology in the next 5 years to at least 10 to 12 different African countries.
Right, and at the same time they get discounts and premium product, and you register specific data regarding the market and what's the
100%
demand is. Right, that's quite a good way to use the new.
You have to think out of the box, or
yeah,
or you will always be trying to have a commercial fight with people that are already 10 times bigger than you. In a traditional way, it's always a losing battle.
Yeah. And just a final question, could you name one specific project that you are particularly proud of regarding your company?
That doesn't have to do with technology, just in general?
Just in general.
Well, it's a very broad question, but I believe the project we are most proud of is we were the first regional producer through our company in Saudi Arabia, Jeddah Cable Company, to be able to produce 500 kilovolts and get approved and start selling. We were the first one in the Middle East, North African region. That's something we're very proud of. We always like to be one step ahead. And hopefully with whatever new technology comes out, we're able to do it quicker than others, because it's always the first mover that has the advantage.
Yes, because it's like a aircraft carrier in terms of naval power.
100%.
It demonstrates something.
100%, exactly.
Right.
And at the end of the day, it's a difficult technology. It requires a lot of investments, but we believe it is a very big part of our future when it comes to exports.
Right, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Proszę Państwa, bardzo wiele osób uważa, że piramidy zbudowali kosmici. No bo skąd ludzie kilka tysięcy lat temu mieliby dysponować technologią umożliwiającą postawienie takiego cudu? Cóż, nie wiem, kto zbudował piramidy, natomiast uważam, proszę Państwa, że gdyby kosmici mieli kiedyś pojawić się na Ziemi, to przywieźliby nam nie piramidy, tylko na przykład właśnie tego typu kable i przewody. Innymi słowy mówiąc, urządzenia, technologie, rozwiązania służące do przesyłania i generowania energii elektrycznej. To są prawdziwe cuda. To jest prawdziwa kosmiczna technologia, która wydźwignęła nas z takich mroków i zaciągnęła na poziom życia, na którym jesteśmy obecnie. Nasz poziom życia jest nierozerwalnie związany z tym, jak dużo energii możemy skonsumować w ciągu dnia i to nam w tym pomaga. Więc mam nadzieję, że ten odcinek naświetlił Państwu, dlaczego tak ważne są tego typu elementy w naszej transformacji energetycznej. Jakub Wiech, kłaniam się nisko i pozdrawiam prosto z Egiptu.